3718.
That's the number I usually have, I think. Yeah, that's the number I usually have for Shelley.
Okay.
Shelley Davis.
Hey, good morning, Shelley.
How are you?
Yeah.
Hey, man, how are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good, good. We want to go ahead and get him on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear how he's sounding, Shelley.
Yeah, I'm going to lock him in.
Great. Thank you, buddy.
Thank
I'll
you.
put you on mute now, okay?
Okay.
Bye.
Okay. We have a 4-minute break after this, right?
Yep.
I'm gonna go get me some coffee. Hey, Dave, how you doing? Oh boy. Oh, Latasha's on?
No.
Oh, okay, you're
Oh,
trying
yeah.
her. Reverend?
Shelley said he was putting me on.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Hey, good morning, Tasha Brown.
Good morning. How are you?
It's
Good.
Santita.
Hold on, let me lock Santita in for you. Hold on.
Are you babysitting Latasha?
She couldn't hear you. Not
Okay. Are you babysitting Latasha?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Are you babysitting Latasha?
I am. I was like, Lord Jesus, I got this baby. His mama's birthday was last night. And so I was like, oh, Lord, I forgot. I told her I was going to keep him.
No, you want us to call you back. Honey, look, you're sounding like my father 40, 50 years ago. He was doing
I'm like, oh,
interviews and children were in the background. He was like, yeah, I've got 4 kids and 5. I got a lot of kids.
right. He's like, I got some children. So I got this little grandbaby. He's sitting in my lap. I'm trying to put the cartoon on with him so I can talk.
All right, stand by.
Hold on, girl. Reverend's going to be up in a hot second.
Good morning and welcome to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse.
I'll make
Jackson.
this real quick so we can get in and out.
This program are not necessarily the views of this station, but strictly of our host and his guest. To speak with Reverend Jackson live, call toll free 1-866-594-HOPE. That's 1-866-594-4673. And now, the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. One day before August. Can you believe the summer has passed so quickly? But we're still in it. July 31st, 2022. I'm Santita Jackson. Welcome to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I hope you'll join me on my show on WCPT 820 every weekday morning, Monday through Friday, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. All right, everybody, what are we talking about today? Voter registration. I know people are talking about January 6th and inflation and all of these things, but the right that guarantees all others is your right to vote. And the Supreme Court is systematically chipping away at it. And Reverend Jackson said, you know what, we've got to look at voter registration, automatic voter registration. Indeed, he was in Memphis this week at the National Bar Association convention, and he made that case before one of the leading newspapers of the South in Memphis, talking about automatic voter registration. To show you how that happens, 2.2 million people were added to the rolls just a few years ago. 2.2 million people. Now, they say that most of the people who were added are the most likely voters anyway, but the fact is, getting registered to vote is something that you should not have to think about. And in fact, we're going to be talking with Senator Lena Taylor from Wisconsin, because in fact, what they did there was make it possible for you to register to vote online. That's right. They sent out forms that would enable you to register to vote online. So what do you think about that? What about making it easier for people to register and vote? Why do we have so many hurdles to voter registration? We want you to call us at 1-866-594-HOPE, 1-866-594-4673. And let's talk about it today. Let's talk about automatic voter registration. Let's talk about registering people to vote. Democrats continue to look for people who've left the party and who are not coming back, and yet you've got millions of high school seniors who are coming out. I mean, the trends show that Americans are becoming more progressive in our thinking because our needs are trending in that direction. So, but even if you register, I mean, I'm not making a case for you to register as a Republican or a Democrat. We want Americans to have equal access to the vote. Now, we have our ideas about the way you should be voting, but the fact is, the way for you to vote, the pathway to your vote, that ought to be made clear for every American. And that is what we're going to be dealing with today. What about voter registration? Can't wait to hear from Reverend Jesse Jackson and the brilliant LaTosha Brown, co-founder of Black Voters Matter, fellow up at Harvard University. We're going to talk with her about registering people to vote. Even as the 2020 presidential voter participation surged, the Brennan Center found that 2020 voter registration declined by an average of 38%. It is being made more difficult for people to get registered to vote. We're getting purged from the voting rolls. So many things are happening. Even as Americans voted, more Americans voted in the 2020 election than any other presidential election in 120 years. 67% of eligible voters, but still 80 million did not vote. So some people are losing faith in the process. But when NPR and the Medill School of Journalism from Northwestern, when they commissioned an Ipsos poll to find out who did not vote in this heavily participated this election in which people so heavily participated in 2020, the plurality of people, the top reason that people said that they didn't vote was because they were not registered to vote. 29%, followed by 23% not interested in politics. But registration to vote is a real obstacle for people. And so what about automatic voter registration? Could that be the game changer? What do you think? Call us at 1-866-594-HOPE, 1-866-594-4673. And those of you who are checking us out on Facebook, on the Santita Jackson and Friends page, we're going to try and get you back up on the Reverend Jesse Jackson Senior page. Those of you who are there, please like and share the show and participate with us. We've got Attorney Darrell Jones, Chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, Attorney Robert Patillo, Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push. Indeed, he will be on his show on WAOK this afternoon from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time. Attorney Darrell Jones and Attorney Barbara Arnwine will be with us later in the show. I have a show on WOL at 12 noon on Tuesdays. And LaTosha Brown, well, we can never say enough about the great LaTosha Brown. And we're going to be hearing from Reverend Jackson and this incredible panel in just a few minutes on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Right back.
1-866-594-HOPE.
What happened?
That's 1-866-594-4673.
I'll be right back.
Hello, this is
Okay,
Joe
let me hear
Cordell.
Reverend.
Divorce touches all areas of your life.
Well,
Family, friends, career, retirement. Few
Reverend.
also that they're
Reverend, can you hear me?
Weather is just awesome. Daryl is a red jeans buster with a stuff. On the body, Daryl. So let the roof come around there too. What was it do? With Barbara right now.
Barbara's not on right now, Reverend. What we have online is Attorney Patillo, Attorney Daryl Jones, Latasha Brown.
Hello. Morning, Reverend. Hello. Yes, sir. Thursday night and Friday morning. All right, Georgia. Yes, sir. I'd like to do is see if we get a church, a white church. Thursday night, day rather. The white church Thursday night, Friday, Sunday night in Brunswick. All right. The white church. Probably a white church. So they're trying to send it we had. We're going to push this here. We can't listen. Diffuse some of the racial reaction to the campaign. Right. Yes, sir. All roads is the mortgage they have. Is that right, Mr. Darrell? Darrell? Yes, Reverend. Then Paul will come to the day. Then the Paul will come to. It's the fish frying, pig picking, blues playing, chicken licking, get off the vote, cookout. Let me tell you, we got a lot of folks that are coming out. Ethnic to me. You gotta get eyes on Italian people. Chicken, pig licking, chicken, some biscuit, rising.
Yeah, I sure do. I want to be there.
Coming. I need to see you by having a double registration.
Okay.
Okay.
I told you I am. When you ready, I'm ready. I'll call you. We just playing it and playing what states we want to go to.
Santita, 30 seconds. Yes.
Yeah, we should just play and we get we get us a big old bus. We got and we're just playing and we just go do a tour.
All right, stand by.
Hold on, everybody.
Okay.
Coming up.
594 HOPE. That's
Reverend?
1-866-594
Okay, all right.
4673.
Funky down. Nasty. Hey, listen to the man. Well, Godfather. Hey there. Cold-blooded. People, gotta get on
James Brown, fucking president.
Hey. Okay, welcome back to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. My technical producer, my engineer, Jeremy Geiger. I never knew what music he's going to come up with, but I heard nasty and said, what are you playing? But of course, it's the Godfather of Soul, the great James Brown. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. But people, we got to get over before we go under. All right, everybody, let's talk about registering to vote. 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. Maybe it's not the, if you will, the sexiest of topics this morning, but it is so real. Your right to vote guarantees every other right that you have. Every other right that you have. So important that it was codified in our Constitution when it was amended for Black men, at least, to have the right to vote, for women to have the right to vote. That had to be an amendment to the Constitution. It's real, everybody. It's real. You're not a full citizen unless you can vote. Well, what about these impediments to registering to vote? And what about the idea that's being enacted by scores of states that we have automatic voter registration? Joining Reverend Jackson this morning, Attorney Robert Patillo, Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push. He'll be on his own show, as I said just a few minutes ago, on WAOK this afternoon from 1 to 4 Eastern Time. Attorney Daryl Jones every Tuesday at 12 noon at WOL, and they stream on BarbaraRNwine.com. Latasha Brown, we'll be hearing from her shortly, right after we hear from Reverend Jackson. co-founder of Black Voters Matter, Harvard fellow. So brilliant, and brilliant activist and analyst and all of those things. But Reverend Jesse Jackson, why did you want to talk about voter registration today when we've got so many issues that are before us?
Good morning, Cynthia. How are you in panel today?
It's wonderful hearing your voice. You sound strong and great.
I feel good, Cynthia. I've been doing a registration drive lately, Southern Crusade, in Arkansas. Combination of Black, Latino, and Asian voters, 440,000. More than the margin the government census won by power and registration. In Texas, there's 640,000 unregistered Black and 1.7 Latinos unregistered. Huge numbers. The census knows who you are, where you are, when you're born, and when you die. American citizens have the right to vote automatically. It should be inherited in citizenship.
Absolutely.
They're done historically. All the white men landowners could vote. All the white men could vote. These are the men, blacks got the right to vote. So it parceled out the right to vote. So we're on the road now, encouraging people to vote. We have a pig licking, hot dog licking.
I got you.
Thing in Milwaukee today. We'll be able to see
Absolutely.
with
Well,
Daryl.
indeed, Attorney Darrell Jones and Barbara Arnwine are going to talk about that. Darrell Jones is going to talk about this big fish fry they're going to have. But Reverend, let's go through the people that you invited here today. Let's start with you, Latasha Brown, because you register people to vote in and out of season. Why do you think this topic is so important this morning?
Oh, good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning, Reverend. Just thank you for just leading in that area. Like, I do think that we have to recognize. I have a 2-year-old who has decided he wants to get us on from the action. My grandbaby. So, but I think we have to really recognize that if we are to have a strong democracy, in order to have a strong democracy, you have to have participation by those that are in that democracy. Other than that, that's why it makes it easy for fascism to take root and for people to actually undermine. So we have to really recognize that having people to vote is not just about individual responsibility. You know, that's part of it, but it's also around the collective protection of all of us. That ultimately we need everybody to participate, to have some skin in the game, to have some sense of ownership of being able to hold people accountable. And so we need automatic, there's really no reason, there's no justification not to have automatic registration. That if you're saying that you're a democracy, if your goal as Americans to say that you're the strongest democracy in the world, then you should be the democracy that actually provides access. It should be automatic registration so that when people come of age, you know, and I actually believe that we should move the voting age down, but that when people come of age, that they have the opportunity to be able to participate and weigh in on this democracy, primarily because every single decision and policy is impacting their lives. So if policy is going to impact your life, isn't it only right that you're a part of that process? Isn't it only right? I know I don't want anybody, I always talk about this. I don't want anybody making decisions about me and my family, and I don't have the opportunity to weigh in on those decision-making processes. So every single day, people are making their decisions being made by people. We should also make sure that it is as easy for people to participate. If we're really honest about it, literally not having automatic voter registration creates a barrier, which is really a form of voter suppression. They're part of that whole idea of you have to be this group or this group to be able to register to vote is to actually create a system that says only a few people have access to the ballot. Last I checked, I never voted to take taxes out of my check.
Well, but let me ask you this, Latasha, to show you, I think that Reverend, if you don't mind, let me just bring this to you because this is a news story. The 4th of July holiday, the Wisconsin Elections Commission sent a mailing to eligible but unregistered voters, so that they could be encouraged to, so that they could register to vote online. Reverend Latasha, what are your response to that?
This is resurrection, but the non-red was about control.
That's right.
That minority controls a big majority. We must reject that control and open up democracy. And the same line, all Western democracies, capitals are involved. Havana, Cuba, Moscow, Russia, Paris, France, London, England. The Supreme Court should be on a rotating basis. So the whole system must open up.
Well,
And Supreme Court term limits and DC and franchise. That's the same package, Santita.
well, but let me ask you, Attorney Darrell Jones, what do you say to Wisconsin Election Commission sending out a mailer over the 4th of July weekend to more than 175,000 eligible but unregistered voters? They targeted them, 178,000, excuse me. They targeted them and they sent them little postcards so that they could go on and get registered to vote online. What do you make of that, Attorney Jones?
Well, Cynthia, it doesn't nearly go far enough. I mean, what needs to happen is that we've got to reach out to every voter that is unregistered, not a select amount. Every unregistered voter should receive something encouraging them to vote. The whole voting access issue is what's at play here. And I think that a large part of this is that you got to remember, Wisconsin was the same place that made it more difficult for people to vote. More difficult saying that, you got to cast your own ballot regardless of the condition that you're in, the physical condition that you're in, that you've got to personally cast your own ballot. So, this almost cherry picking of people that they're sending things to, which is what I equate that to, I think is inappropriate. I think that it should be a broad spectrum. It should be encouraging people, wherever they are, if they're unregistered, to be able to get registered and to vote. The registration online obviously doesn't bother me, but when they start cherry picking who they're asking to come and vote, that's problematic. They should send it out to any unregistered voter that is in the state of Wisconsin to come out and vote. That includes the city and county of Milwaukee. That really concerns me that they're cherry picking who they're trying to get to come out and register and then come out to vote.
Attorney Robert Patillo, automatic voter registration. You see what's happening in Wisconsin. What do you make of this?
Well, automatic voter registration should be the floor of what we do electorally in the country. The concept itself is antiquated, that you have to have additional steps in order to exercise the franchise. What we need to be moved to at this point in time is universal voter education. We have to start teaching civics in elementary and high school again. We have to start bringing in more civic participation with young people. We have to get more people involved in our political process and understanding the way that our government works. It's great to graduate high school being able to quote Macbeth. It's better to know 3 branches of government and who's in charge of fixing the streets in your community. We have to understand that the reason that these forces are putting millions, if not billions of dollars behind voter suppression under the disguise of voter integrity is because they understand that the demographics are not behind them. The browning of America is already here. And the only way to maintain political power is to make it more difficult to vote. We need to ensure that we have the same apparatus on the progressive side of the aisle to ensure that people are not simply registered, but educated and motivated, and that politicians are doing their part to ensure that people are getting their bang for their buck when it comes to voting for them, so that they can see that there's actually a reason to and a benefit to voting. Finally, me and Reverend Jackson, where Reverend was in Atlanta last, spoke to a group of state legislators and community activists about the fact that we need to get out into these disadvantaged communities and register those people to vote. Far too often, these organizations that receive millions of dollars in private funding, they will go to the cocktail hour, they will go to the big mega churches, they will go to the nice communities to register people to vote. But when it comes to those downtrodden and dangerous communities that need the most help, there are many groups and organizations and individuals that are afraid to go talk to them. And then they wonder why they don't turn out to vote. We have to work on expanding the cause of democracy if we want to call ourselves the shining light for democracy for the world, and making sure that all individuals have the right, the ability, and the information needed to properly choose the leadership of this country.
Reverend Jackson?
On the principles of elders serve jurors.
I'm sorry, Reverend, Reverend, what did you just say?
Well, say, Reverend said, why should we vote? Say, if you're in trouble, or your friends in trouble, you have to be a juror. Say, yes. Only those who are ready to vote can be a juror. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
For example, take their membership. So many people are
Well, you know, Reverend, so many people. I mean, I would like to know. We're going to get Reverend Dr. Todd Urey on shortly, but how it is that you were so successful. Well, you bridge. You know, Latasha Brown, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Reverend is really a unique figure. You know, in our history. I mean, because Bill Maher introduced him on his show. The first time he ever appeared on his show when it was on ABC, he said he's an icon of our religious, political, social, and cultural lives. So he stands in between a lot of different worlds with credibility. When he comes into church, he has credibility. When he goes into the political sphere, he has credibility. When he's in our cultural space, he has credibility. And it seems to me that you know, our church has also crossed a lot of lines, particularly the Black church, because our music, for example, is just so popular, and our style is so popular. It's really just shaped the culture, reshaped the culture. What can we do? I mean, what are you seeing as you're organizing people, as you're getting on these buses and getting in these cars, and you are out there organizing the old-fashioned way, door to door, person to person? What? Yes, Reverend?
it lives a big issue of us. And Cleveland, poorest big city in America. 32% black now. 61% you can't read and write.
Are you speaking
And
of?
only 25% finish high school.
You
So
know,
many people in our churches are making X's. They can't write their names.
well, I mean, aren't you allowed, attorney? I'm sorry, Latasha. Yes.
You know, there's also another piece that Reverend just made me, just brought to mind and brought up for me. And I think part of Reverend Jackson's effectiveness in those different spaces is because at the end of the core of it is connecting us to our humanity. That at the end of the day, that there's a social, there's a political, there's an economic, there is a familiar, there's a reality that we all experience. And part of voting rights, we also have to see that as a human right, that people fundamentally have the right to be able to shape the environments that they live in. We have to see it as a human right that everybody's voice matters. And so part of what we find is when we go out and we talk to folks and we take the big, what we call the Blackest Western America, all around rural communities and urban areas and all around the nation, is that people want to feel affirmed, that they want to know that they're listened to, they want to know that they matter, that they want to really understand and really feel connected around having a sense of their own agency. And so part of our work is not about the transaction of voting, it's really around the transformative opportunity that people have to shape the kind of communities that they want, that they can envision the schools and the education that they want, and they can actually do something about it. They can actually have the kind of leaders that are going to have a vision to move their community forward. And so what we have to really recognize is registering the vote is more than just a transaction about voting. People in Selma, Alabama, and throughout the South, those folks that were on the Emmett Pettus Bridge, they weren't there just because they wanted the transaction of the vote. They were there because they believed in their own human agency, their own agency. They believed that they had the right to be treated like human beings. They believed that they had the right that God had given them voice, and that has given them a spirit that they could actually stand in their humanity. And so we also have to see voting rights in that context as well.
Hmm. What about voting rights as a human right, Attorney Daryl Jones?
Oh, absolutely. And one of the things that Reverend was speaking of was with regards to people serving on jurors being registered to vote and or licensed drivers. But in addition to that, in our communities, we often talk about the unfairness of how we're policed by police officers. Well, the police officers generally are under a policy that's selected by the chief of police, who's selected by an elected representative who we vote for. We're concerned about the prosecutors. We elect the head prosecutors in those jurisdictions, so that puts that in place. We elect the judges that are making decisions on cases. So all of this rolls from the power of that vote. That is the reason that we get out in the streets and we push for people to recognize that the power of that vote really is the power of governing their life. It's the power of determining who makes decisions that are in the community's best interest. And that's why we push so hard to be certain that we have representatives that are elected in position to make our communities better, to make our communities more inclusive, the multiracial, faceted community that will be the richness of what we're looking for. So when we talk about the civility, we talk about the humanity of the vote, that's what it's all about. I'm so excited because the one thing that Reverend has always pushed on is talking about organizations coming together, having a common plan, a common theme, working together as a team. And Black Voters Matter, as well as many other organizations, are working closely, hand in glove with us to be certain that we're in the streets, talking to the people, getting them out to vote. That's part of what's happening here in Wisconsin. There wasn't this organization that was there before we came here, but it's here now, and they're pushing forward. Black Voters Matter and the Transformative Justice Coalition are here together, working jointly on this project, and this is going to be an incredible voter turnout. So we're very excited about this, Santita. And the whole essence of voting and voting rights is what underrides all of this.
Well, hold on 1 second, because I've got a hard out in about 10 seconds. You have a fish fry today. What time? Where? 10 seconds.
To 5 p.m. at McGovern Park, Rec Area number 4. It's a fish frying, pig picking, blues playing, good time voter cookout.
Milwaukee.
It's a celebration.
Back in just a minute.
Your opinion counts. 1-866-594-HOPE. That's 1-8.
I'm sorry. We'll open with that, Daryl, but just give it to me. City and place.
All right, what's your name?
And time.
Okay.
Okay.
City, place, and time. Got it.
Hello?
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. Let's put some fish on the side.
Duh. Okay, now, Reverend. Reverend, remember less is more. Okay.
Okay.
But you need to speak slowly.
Okay,
You've got to speak slowly. Okay. So thank you. So when you hear me stop you, I can hear something. So let me just go with that. Okay.
Okay,
All right. Very good. Okay, Latasha. Girl, like Daddy, I told her
I'm doing the best I can with this little baby. I want to talk to him. He wants to stuff until I get on the air.
Honey, look, I told you, my father used to have to do a lot of interviews with us around. And he would tell people, I got a lot of kids. What? And he said,
and he's not even, the irony is he's not crying. He got a fake cry. He's doing like a fake cry, like, and then the moment I stop talking, he stops.
That's right, because you got to give him some attention.
Oh, I'm about to beat him up.
Bless your heart. I'm like, this is the cutest thing in the world. He's like, I'm like, honey, you're not going to get any pushback from us. Because we spent too much time on the road with Dad. With all them kids.
To your grandmother too. That's she's living there.
Dad, I can't understand you. What did you just say?
Talking to the 32-year-old grandmother.
That's right. I'm a 32-year-old grandmother. Just add 20 more years to that.
Stand by.
Stand by.
listening to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Call 1-866.
I'm the first to admit, though, they don't make grandmothers like they used to.
That's
Oh my.
1-866-594-4673.
Because my grandmother was like the bomb. My grandmother, I thought that I was the center of the universe.
I did too. My grandma was in between her frying everybody's hair.
Right.
I was everything.
I was everything.
I know how you feel. Hold on one second. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. We are talking about registering to vote today. In the midst of everything, in the midst of the January 6th hearings, inflation, our love and prayers go out to President Biden. He tested positive again for COVID. He has a case of rebound COVID, having taken Paxlovid. He's now back in isolation. But they said he's asymptomatic at this point. We just pray for his swift recovery from COVID. You know, Dr. Fauci had the same thing. They took this antiviral and they got COVID again. They say it happens between 2 and 8 days. It can happen between 2 and 8 days after having finished that series of medicines, but we're sending our love and prayers to him. But that having been said, there's a lot going on everywhere you go. And so, but what is also going on, Reverend Jackson reminds us, is this: the midterms. We're having elections. We just had our primaries June 28th here in Chicago. You've got other primaries that are going to be held throughout the summer. And then you've got the November midterms. Congress is in the balance. In the balance. And we need to talk about this. Reverend Jackson said, with all that we have going on today, he said, no, Santita, we are going to talk about voter registration today. Robert Patillo, voter registration. And Reverend has been really driving home automatic voter registration. Why is that important, Robert Patillo?
Well, it's important because when you're talking about young voters, why put an additional barrier in place for them to be able to exercise the franchise? When you're 18 years old, you can go serve in the military, you can buy a firearm, you can rent an apartment, you can serve on the jury, etc. But you're not automatically registered to vote. So we need to be in a place in this country where every single high school senior that graduates is registered to vote, where every single college freshman is registered to vote, because that's how you start to exercise power on the political system. Instead of the entire political system being ran by, some of the greatest generation who are still part of the political process, we have to ensure that the voices of the next generation are being heard and being respected and being campaigned to. Once people have to campaign to you, they have to start making promises to you. Once they start making promises to you, you can hold them accountable for those promises. And that's how you start making these types of social change that are needed. It's very hard to convince an 18 or an 18-year-old to get on board with some of these antiquated ideas. We're just getting a climate change bill through this week. Imagine how much sooner that would have happened if you had more young people registered to vote. We're just now seeing expansion of Obamacare. Imagine how much sooner that would have happened if you had younger people who need insurance able to vote in the numbers that are proportionate to their population. The right to vote is fundamental to every other right in a pluralistic system. And this is why we must have automatic voter registration, so we can ensure that the majority of Americans are the people who are controlling our politics, not a small cadre of special interest groups.
Reverend Jackson, let me bring on Senator Lena Taylor from Wisconsin, and we're also joined by Reverend Dr. Todd Geary. Senator Taylor, we understand from this report that Wisconsin, during the 4th of July weekend, your election commission sent out a mailer to 178,000 plus unregistered but eligible voters so that they could vote online. What happened there?
Well, as you are aware, they're not going to be able to do absentee voting, taking it into a voting machine or a ballot box, I should say. But instead, they're going to have to personally deliver it. And then there was the issue most recently that we have, which is now that they can't do that, what in the world will we do with all of these individuals who have absentee ballots and may not be able to have those individuals taken back for themselves? So I'm not certain if that's the issue that you're referring to. So,
No, I mean, I just read this story that I thought was interesting that they've targeted eligible but unregistered voters. But I think that that bears mentioning too, that if you're sick, no one can help you get your, and you know, and you vote absentee, what happens? What happens if you have COVID and you need to vote absentee? What happens then?
mobile, which is why there was a complaint filed. But you have to be able to take the ballot in yourself personally, and if you are unable to do that, it truly makes it difficult for individuals with permanent disabilities, or for that matter, individuals with temporary disabilities, maybe health issues, maybe they've gone in for surgery, or like myself, when I broke my ankle. There's just not the ability for people to be mobile. But sending items out to those individuals that were not registered or not, there are so many individuals, at least in most of the polls that have been done for the elections coming up, 40% of individuals are saying that they were undecided. And those are the ones that are normally in contact. We have so many voters that are not even registered to vote. And the number of individuals that we need to be involved in the election, let's say for this August and this November election, in particular for our gubernatorial race and our U.S. Senate race to get rid of Ron Johnson, we need every voter we can get, because the race was so close when the
Reverend Jackson? Okay, wait a minute, Reverend. We need to get you in the right space. Your phone just, Reverend. Okay, Reverend. This is we got a poor connection now. Oh no, now you're back. Okay, Reverend. Now you're back.
Well, then, so will you be at the picnic?
Okay, wait a minute, Reverend. What did you just say?
At the picnic day.
At the fish fry, right? Okay, now what? Now, because you and Daryl need to speak about Reverend. We need to let Senator Taylor, Attorney Lena Taylor, as well, speak about this fish fry from 1 to 5 today. First, you, Senator Taylor, and then you.
It's not gonna just be fish now. They got a pig that they're roasting. Daryl and them have done it up with Wisconsin Voices and other groups. They were collecting tables and chairs from the office the other day, just last night. So everyone has been doing a lot to get things ready. They're gonna have fish and a pig and chicken and activities, and Daryl will be able to tell you so much more.
Attorney Daryl Jones, you didn't tell me that you all going to have a big old pig there. So,
You know, Santita, I try to keep some things secret, so when you come there, you'd be surprised.
look, I might have to jump up there and go up to Milwaukee myself today. What's going on?
Oh yeah, we're going to have the pig on the spittle, and we're going to have the fish that'll be fried, the chicken that'll be cooking. I mean, we got it all going on at the McGovern Park and Rec Area number 4 from 1 to 5 in Milwaukee today. And let me tell you, you know, Santita, one of the great things, this is a celebration of the vote. That's what this is. It's a celebration of the vote. So all of this is free to the community to come on out, because we want you to be encouraged to go out and register and vote. You know, we'll have the ability for you to check your voting registration status while you're there from your phone. So it's making it all very convenient for you. But not only that, you know, the kids will be able to get book bags as they prepare to go back to school. They'll be able to get free haircuts as they prepare to go back to school. This is a community celebration of the vote and that right to vote, and we're so excited to have this happening today at McGovern Park here in Milwaukee from 1 to 5.
That is fantastic, Reverend.
I'm a chicketarian. You got chicken there?
Yeah, he just said he's going to have chicken there, Reverend. My goodness. All this,
He said he a chicketarian.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah, right.
Natasha, you know, she's not helping, and you know, and I'm afraid Oh my! And I'm afraid to call on Reverend Dr. Yuri because he's gonna go black preacher on me and want that whole pig to himself. Or he might not eat the pig. I don't know. Because those of us who went to HBCUs, when we get there as freshmen, nobody eats the pig anymore. Is that crazy? Reverend Dr. Yuri, Reverend really wanted to focus. Of course, he's the senior vice president of Rainbow Push, pastor of the iconic Douglas Memorial Community Church in Baltimore, Maryland. Reverend, out of all of the issues that are before us today, he said we've got to focus on voter registration. Why is that important, Reverend Dr. Yuri, Esquire?
Well, good morning, Reverend. Good morning, Cynthia, and to all of your guests. Actually, I was going to raise the fact that I heard pig and I heard chicken and I heard fish. I heard no vegetables anywhere. So I need us to make sure that we are eating healthy because we can't be overloaded with cholesterol trying to vote. We gotta be ready.
Well, what about greens with a ham hock in it? Hello?
It'll work as long as there's more grains than ham hocks.
I don't know.
The hot can take that.
Oh my. Oh, okay, that's good. With some bacon in it? Okay.
And coleslaw don't count. So, here's why the vote is so critical, especially in this election. If we consider all of the test cases that are just being thrown out there that are looking to take us back to really prehistoric days legally, they are all driven by the ability to put judges and justices on benches who interpret the law much differently than we've ever seen in our history. And the reason that's so critical is that has a direct impact on the ability of people to act on and respond to issues that affect their rights. So take, for instance, the issue, we've spent a lot of time talking about the reversal on Roe v. Wade and Casey. But let's look at who can contract, who can pursue certain actions, who can sue to have rights restored. All of those things flow from who's able to determine who's in place making those decisions. Now, on top of that, remember, every state governor, the federal government, every year, the one piece of legislation that they have to deal with is the budget. The budget is the way that public dollars are used to address particular interests. And the interests are often drawn. We had redlining in housing. We also have redlining in the use of public dollars. And so when communities are under-resourced, underdeveloped, underinvested, a lot of that is the byproduct of policy decisions made as a direct result of what happened in the election and the ability to resist and to make it harder for folks that they don't want to vote because it changes the calculus for who's spending the money. I would often ask my students in Intro to American Government, this was back before the 2016 election, why would a supposed billionaire run for a job that pays $450,000 a year if he would have to live in public housing called the White House? And they would often look at me with a blank stare. And I would tell them, when you get to spend other folks' money, it puts you in a particularly influential position to be able to curry favor because you can direct dollars in places and ignore other spaces where there is no accountability. So the election is not just about the ability to vote, it's the ability to influence where the money goes, what is spent on and what it's not spent on, and who gets to benefit from the public coffers. And if we don't get into this game, this is always an issue of economics. The vote, the right to vote, always had an economic frame to it from its very founding. It has an economic impact even to this day. And what the people who are fearful of a rising of the populace, the real people, the grassroots folks, they know if they get into the game and they start voting their interest, is going to change the formula for the distribution of public dollars, which then addresses how wealth is calculated and distributed in the United States of America. It's all about the money, honey. And so don't even get it twisted. This isn't about sentimental. This ain't about that little sticker. It's about who's going to write the budget and who's going to make the grocery list.
My mother says that's what it's about. Who's going to cut the check?
And the young used to have a line that says, the vote is about respect. When we couldn't vote, we was nigger, then Negroes, then Negroes, then the colors, then Negroes, then black, then African American. The more we got to vote, the more our name and dignity came across. Those don't vote because it's niggers. And then you own up to African American.
Well, Reverend, I don't think we can use that word on the radio. So, but I hear you. I just.
And the point is that's what the poetry is.
No, look, I hear you. Wait a minute, Reverend, slow down. What now?
You know, I just driven home on them. And I told my, when I was around first, my grandmother was not going to vote for me. But she didn't love me. She could read and write. And since I was old, she had developed a life outside of the business politics.
Well, you know, and to be fair, Grandma Tibby, my great-grandmother, did not want to make it a matter of public record, Senator Taylor and Attorney Patillo and Attorney Jones and Reverend Dr. Yeary, that she could not read or write. She knew that she would have to essentially make a public declaration that she couldn't read or write. And this is a woman who purchased an education insurance policy for me on the day that I was born. Education meant that much to her, even though she didn't have access to it. So that was just that, you know, Senator Taylor.
I understand that concept. My grandmother only went to the 11th grade. And I remember when I graduated from high school and when I graduated from college, you know, that she made it such an important issue. She didn't get to see me graduate from law school, but the others were so important. And when I graduated from college and she gave me dollars, and when I graduated from high school, she gave me $500 in particular, I remember, and I thought, oh my goodness, well, what am I going to get when I graduate from college? I remember thinking as a young child.
Oh my gosh.
Important.
These millions of dollars here, $500. Look, that's nothing to sneeze at when you're in high school or college. You kidding me? That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm just calling in. I have a different opinion.
She had given them the opportunity to get a higher education also, and it just pressed it. And, you know, really for her, voting was the same thing. I remember her making a point, you know, to take us with her when she went to vote, and my mother doing the same. And so that's why Reverend's point of voter registration is so key. That's why the items that were mailed out trying to inform individuals are important, because our elections in Wisconsin are so close, Santita. Like literally it was less than 30,000 votes that Governor Evers won by last time. Like, and even President Trump won Wisconsin by less than 25,000 votes. So this is an important number in a polling location right near my district. It's a little further from McGovern Park, which is the park that they'll be at today in my district. But that was what, 30,000 absentee ballots that were calculated from that particular location. So these are close elections. Every voter counts. Getting people registered on a beautiful day like today is huge. I personally have not been involved in this effort with Wisconsin Voices in Transformative Justice, but my team has. And individuals from my team have been helpful in this process. And this is going to be a great event to motivate people. And churches in particular have been encouraged to have people come after church. That's what I personally did, was to share with some particular congregations to encourage people to come out to the park after church, so that they can make sure their members are registered, so that people can vote, so that that difference in that election can hopefully, you know, be close, as I know it will be, but be on the right side of justice.
Well, you know, everybody, Reverend, I've got less than a minute.
81 years old.
Emmett Till.
And one juror could have jammed the 3 men that killed him. We wouldn't have a single juror, but we wouldn't vote. That's the power of that one vote.
Well, Reverend, it's those examples of if you look at, as we keep our fingers crossed about the Trayvon Martin trial, about as we look at Kyle Rittenhouse, as we look at what happened in Buffalo, as we look at all of the George Floyd, as we look at all of these trials, the election process is at the heart of that. You elect the judges, only registered voters who can be on the juries, and on and on and on it goes. But Attorney Robert Patillo, who will be on WAOK this afternoon from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time, made the point, we don't even teach civics anymore, Reverend. So people don't even know. Keith, I want you to hold on for us because we want to hear your thoughts, Orange Beach, Florida. We want to hear your thoughts on the other side of the break. So stay right there. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Everyone, Dave Dowling and Ashley King down there in Memphis, and all of you who are watching, please like and share the show. Like and share the show. And join me tomorrow morning on Keep Hope Alive on the Santita Jackson Show on the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, AM WCPT and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Back with more of the Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Reverend, when you're on the air as much as I am, things get a little confusing sometimes. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes.
Coming up, we'll have closing thoughts from Reverend Jesse Jackson right here on Keep Hope Alive.
Okay, Reverend?
Yeah.
Okay, remember, you got to speak slowly. Slowly. And be very deliberate about the full sentences. Okay?
About 15 minutes of the program.
I can't understand you now.
About 15 minutes at the end, okay?
Okay, very good. Just remember, you can't let your energy drop. You have to go all out. And that will make you sound normal. You got to go all out. It's like makeup on camera makes you look normal. But when you come off camera, you look like you've fallen into pancake flour. Okay, that's my point. So we've got Keith from Orange Beach, Florida, who has a difference of opinion. We're going to speak with him after we're going to have a quick out here. But I certainly want him to, in fact, I'll give the balance of my opening remarks to him at the top of the hour, Reverend, so that the whole audience, he can get things started since he has a difference of opinion, okay? Reverend?
Okay.
Okay, very good. Reverend, you want to say hello to Senator Taylor and to Attorney Jones and Robert Patillo and Reverend Dr. Yuri?
I know.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Good morning, Reverend.
Good time. I'm good, Reverend. I'm just asking, do you eat potato salad? You know, they serve that too at these fish fries.
Oh, is that the vegetable? Are you serious right now?
Well, I would never raise it as a vegetable. I just know. Reverend's favorite color on his plate is like brown. It's like fried this, fried that.
And orange-ish. Barbecue.
Right, orange.
Now, mind you, I want you to know, my parents would not let us drink sodas. Even when I was a freshman in college, when you went out, you had to get orange juice with your hamburger. We were like, what?
Fresh squeeze.
He was like, yeah. He said, no. They were like, no. Soda's bad for you. I could not wait to get to college, so I get me a soda with my meal. I thought I was an adult then. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh. I didn't, but But this is a fish fry. Come on, Todd. Let them have some fun today.
I don't have any problem with the fish fry, but the pastors have had to repent. Church is one of the worst places to go to eat.
Yeah.
By the time you drink church tea or church Kool-Aid, your blood sugar is so high. that you might just want to prescribe insulin to yourself and just get started.
It's a glorious thing. It's a glorious
Oh my
thing.
goodness.
It's a glorious
It is
thing.
about like syrup, but it's so good.
It's a good
It is good now. Don't get me wrong. I don't just let anybody work the Kool-Aid ministry. You got to know what you do.
Because you don't even need salt. You don't need salt and pepper at the table. Everything is just right. Yes. Salty or sweet. Ooh. Love it.
And on the 8th day, the Lord created lard.
Oh, I love it. Oh. Yes. But you know, remember, fat doesn't make you fat. It's sugar that does. Starches and sugar. So, but
yeah, actually, the doctor just said the other day, put vegetables, but actually meat and the vegetable. It is the carbohydrate. It is the starches that you don't need, but said the meat and the vegetables. I was a little thrown off because I thought they were going to just say, watch the vegetables.
No,
do
girl.
more. But no.
Stand by.
Stand by. I was one of Atkins' patients up in New York. They gave him all kinds to eat for that. Hold on. We're coming out.
2, 1, you're live.
Hey, everybody. We're talking about voter registration. Yes, in the second hour of Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. We hope that you'll stay in touch with Reverend Jackson throughout the week at 773-FREEDOM and at rainbowpush.org. Back with Keep Hope Alive in just a couple of minutes.
Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. For more information on upcoming shows and guests, please visit our website at www.keephopealiveradio.com.
Oh, look, Lena, Dr. Atkins has been dead almost 20 years. But what was interesting about him was that his practice was his clinic was in the wealthiest zip code in Manhattan. But when you went in, there was nothing but black and brown people there, and they were working class because he was treating diabetes. That was the story that they were not telling people about the low carb, high protein diet. That initially it was designed to treat diabetes, which he said disproportionately impacts people of color.
Right.
He said, because you all don't eat that way in your indigenous, in your places of origin. Oh, look, he was the man. He said, I hope I'm not offending you. I said, you're not offending me. I was there, girl. I was there trying to lose weight. And he changed my life, quite frankly. He really did. Because even when you have weight loss surgery, as I did, you have to follow a low carb, high protein eating regimen. Otherwise, the surgery is not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
You
got to create that change.
Surgery assists you. It does not do the job for you. Stand by. We're coming.
My chicken ingredients.
Okay, you want? I know he doesn't want baked chicken, Daryl. So we know that. But if you make some really great roasted chicken, I had some the other day, Dad. I'm gonna bring you some over to the office this week because Jonathan had some at his party this week, and it was fabulous.
Better wait till he eats it before you tell him what it is.
No, he's gonna eat.
I made some hot water cornbread to go with some greens the other night.
That's right. You better take. All right. One of Reverend Jackson's best friends in the world, the great Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul. I'm Santita Jackson. This is Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Keep that music playing. Jeremy Geiger, our technical producer, engineer extraordinaire, gets here first thing. He used to spend the night here on the floor, so he wouldn't miss the show. We just love you, Jeremy Geiger. We thank God for you. And for all who sat in your chair, but you've been here the longest. Bless your heart. You just keep on going and going and going. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you. Call us at 1-866-594-HOPE, 1-866-594-4673. Reverend wants to talk to you about automatic voter registration. Why don't we have it? Why should we have it? Of course we should have it. And we're going to be talking about that. Voter registration today. It's something that he's been pushing for, not just voter registration, but automatic voter registration. They can find you when they need to draft you. You can be found when you owe your taxes, or even if you don't owe your taxes. You can be found to be harassed, but when you want to vote, you got to jump through these hoops. Why? The vote is the rights that guarantees your access to all of your rights. Reverend Jackson made the point that when Black people were first here and when we didn't have not just the voting franchise, but not even our citizenship rights as we were born on this soil. We've been here since the 1530s. We came with the Spaniards, okay? When the European experiment in this part of the world began. And yet we didn't have the right, we didn't have citizenship, but they tied our citizenship, our right to vote, and equal protection under the law. All these things were tied up together. But you got to have the right to vote. You got to have the right to vote. You had to be freed from slavery. Get the right to vote. Get your citizenship. All that stuff is together. It's intertwined. And when you dislodge the vote, we're not really citizens anymore. So we got to talk about that. Talk about all of the barriers that are being erected to you and the vote today. While we're looking at all of these stories in our news cycle, be very clear. The place that we're not being directed to look, Wisconsin State Senator Shalina Taylor, is the vote. Reverend Dr. Yeary, Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary, senior pastor of the iconic Douglas Memorial Community Church in Baltimore, Maryland. Vice President Rainbow Push, Southeastern Regional Director Rainbow Push. He'll be on his own show on WAOK from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time today. Attorney Robert Patillo, Attorney Darrell Jones, the chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition. They're having a big old fish fry. Can't wait to hear what he's going to be talking about with that fish fry that everybody's getting ready for up in Milwaukee today, everybody, from 1 to 5. You don't want to miss it. They're going to even have a big old pig there. You're going to be able to get haircuts. Our kids are going to be able to get book bags to get ready for school. It's going to be a great, great, great event, and you can find out how if you're registered to vote. They're going to get you registered. They're going to do a lot of stuff. We're going to hear from him in a hot second. We're going to hear from Keith shortly. He says he has a difference of opinion. We cannot wait to hear Reverend Jackson, what he has to say. Why did you want to talk about voting today, Reverend Jackson, out of all the topics that you could discuss?
It will stop Trumpism. Trumpism in his Supreme Court intends since back in 1896. Every right we have now is in jeopardy. The woman's right to choose about the options.
Yeah, so this the Keith Hope alive?
If he wins again, but he plans to privatize civil service jobs. There's been the saving for black middle class for a long time. We'll lose all those post office jobs if he wins again. Stakes are very high. I want children to graduate diploma and voter card. You should know in high school what your precinct is of your school and your home. What the precinct is, number one. State legislators, state reps, state senators, sheriffs, judges, the whole thing was related a few minutes ago by Darrell. Let me say, my friends, ignorance is not a fun. Intelligence is not more fun. You ought to have the judgment to vote. So you automatically register to vote for the military. If wartime comes, they come right to poorest communities, unregistered voters, first degree on the draft. Choose the right to vote automatically.
Amen, amen, amen. Well, we're talking about the right to vote, and we're going to hear from you, Keith, when we get to the other side of the break. Can't wait to hear from you as we talk about voting rights. Voting rights. We're in the midst of the primary season for the midterms. I mean, people are having elections, and they're voting right now. But people are finding that they've been purged from the rolls. They're finding that it's not as easy for them to vote. And Reverend, of course, we send our love to the people of Kentucky. In Eastern Kentucky, they are dealing with a tragedy of untold proportions. We've got to get Charles Booker on here to talk about that. We're watching people who are being swept away, just being pushed out of their homes. They can't even imagine. We can't even imagine what they're living with. We're all but a rainstorm or snowstorm away from disaster ourselves. We think of the people of Kentucky. Do whatever you can to contribute to their recovery. And that's a voting issue too. So we got a lot to talk about on Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Please give Push your support. Help Push as Push helps you. Call us throughout the week at 773-FREEDOM. We need our volunteers. And we want you to go to rainbowpush.org and become a member of the organization. We need your support. We need you It's people united, and that's you, to serve humanity. More of Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson in just a few minutes.
Your opinion counts. 1-866-594-HOPE. That's 1-866-594-4673.
Okay, everybody, we're on
It's getting
Facebook
worrying
Live
now.
right now, but if you want to speak, you can. Reverend, would you like to hear? You can hear Keith before you go, okay?
Yeah, I will.
Okay, very good. You sound well now. You sound good.
Yeah, good.
Hmm?
We're in Milwaukee today.
Oh, you are?
Yes,
Okay, when are you heading back to Chicago?
Chicago Live is over.
Okay. Okay, I hear your phone or somebody's phone in the background. Is that you? Oh, is that Bob? Oh, okay. Oh. I don't know why they do it this way. This is so great. Reverend? What did you say, Reverend?
He's on the phone.
Right.
Reverend.
Yes.
Reverend, we can hear you on Facebook Live.
Okay. Anything out of character?
Reverend.
Telephone ring, I hang it up.
Okay, thank you.
The process of getting this Constitution Amendment, what process here, there? What do you get?
Reverend, you need to slow down. Reverend, you've got to slow down.
Hello?
Good morning.
Attorney Arline.
Please hold for Cynthia.
It's all over the country on that resolution. What does that require?
Reverend, say that one more time, please.
On that resolution, what does that require?
What did you just say?
On that resolution, what does it require?
Did you say online?
Automatic.
No. Reverend needs to hear. No. Wait, everybody, hold on. Reverend has to slow down and do this and do it correctly. Okay, perfect practice makes perfect. So, Reverend, I need you to slow down and say it before you say it in public today. What did you just ask?
What's citizenship? What's required by law to do that? Reverend Darrell.
No, Reverend, we don't understand what you just said.
I only understood, Reverend, you said what's required.
What and what's after
for
that?
what?
The right to vote automatically.
You have the automatic right to vote.
Yeah, as a citizen.
Yeah,
Registration.
with the automatic voter registration, it really can be accomplished two ways. The best way, I think, that it would be accomplished, the most practical way, is through individual states to require it, so that you can have legislation that requires the automatic voter registration as it relates to each state. You know, interestingly, in Texas, they actually require students to be registered to vote before they can vote, and it's enforced against each of the educational high school schools that's there, but they don't enforce it. Is the problem? So, in order for that to happen across the country, the easiest way would be for each state to require the automatic registration by each legislature. It could also be done probably by executive order with regards to that as well. But that's one that
He didn't pick up.
right. That's one that would be a little more difficult.
Stand by 20 seconds.
We're coming in.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to bring in Keith before I bring in everybody else. Hey, Attorney Arline.
Hope Alive with
Good morning. Good morning.
Good
Call
morning.
Daryl,
1-866-594.
Yes, you did. Hold on one moment.
That's 1-866-594-4673.
Reverend, hold on. Hold on,
I can't
everybody. Hold on. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Joining the panel is Attorney Robert Arnwine, founder and president of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Joining her chairman, Attorney Darrell Jones. Of course, together they have a radio show on WOL every Tuesday at 12 noon. Please check them out. They also stream on her website, barbaraarnwine.com. Attorney Robert Patillo, Southeastern Regional Director for Rainbow Push, will be on his own show, 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on WAOK. Can't wait to hear what he's going to be talking about today. Reverend Dr. Todd Geary, Vice President of Rainbow Push, Senior Pastor of the iconic Douglas Memorial Community Church, and Wisconsin State Senator Lena Taylor. Reverend, before we get some comments from Attorney Arnwine, Keith has been gracious enough Keith from Florida. You've been gracious enough to hold. Thank you so much, Keith. What's on your mind today? Oh, hold on. Keith?
Yes.
Okay, now we
Hello.
can hear you. Yes, thank you so much.
I just wanted maybe to give a different perspective. I grew up in Richmond, Virginia. I went to elementary school in the early 70s, and I was one of those kids that got bused into the black schools. And some of the same conversations that I hear today, I feel like I've heard back then so many times. But I want to talk about the political process and the voting in Richmond. It is a majority of black city, and I went to school with the daughter of the first black mayor, Henry Marsh, in 1978. And ever since then, the city council, the school board, the mayorship have primarily been won by black leaders, maybe to the exception of Tim Kaine and Jerry Belial were there, but the power of the structure of the city has been controlled by the black population, as it should, because they're the majority of the population. So I would argue that if there's voter suppression, that probably wouldn't happen. And I think there's a lot of other cities, like Washington, that the majority of the population is black, and they're run by black leaders. So I think there, there's an argument there that there's not really voter suppression. And I also believe that requiring voter ID is not hindering the vote. I think it's protective. I lived in California once. I lived in San Francisco. And when I voted, they just asked me what my name was and my address, and I was able to vote. I could have been anybody. I could have been a friend of mine, and I would have been able to vote for another candidate. So I disagree. I think that if you're 18 years old, you have the right to register to vote no matter what. Nobody's keeping you from that.
Well, you know what?
I feel like, okay.
No, Keith, don't leave. Could you stay here? Because, we appreciate respectful disagreement, because we can disagree without being disagreeable. I'm so glad that you decided to call in today with your thoughts, but stay right here so we can engage. Let me start with you, Attorney Barbara Arnwine, because, I hear a lot of people make the argument that, look, you need identification for this, that, and the other. Why not identification to vote? What is your response?
Well, first of all, good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And morning, Reverend Jackson. It's so good to talk with you this morning and everyone else on the show. Actually, I feel sorry for Keith because he hasn't been keeping up with Richmond because he's making assumptions that aren't true. In fact, in Richmond, they had to fire their white voter registrar because she was not registering and taking care of the African American population in Richmond. I kid you not. This was a
Well, where's
fight.
our Sonny the mayor?
I'm telling you, she was fired, sir, because she was not taking care of the African American population. In fact, Daryl Jones and I and Gary Flowers actually led a campaign against her because of her horrible actions. Just because you're in a majority black city doesn't protect you from voter suppression. We were so angry with her because she had too few machines, too few sites. She was underserved in the community. She was making so many errors that we filed a letter requesting her removal. And people in Richmond were shocked, but they looked at her record and she went too far. She messed up again, and she messed up year after year after year. And they finally had to get rid of her because she just didn't care about serving her black voters. I'm telling you the truth. Look it up. If you think I'm wrong, just Google it. It was a matter of record. There were many articles written about her. So first of all, voter suppression isn't just an issue of who is in office at the mayoral level. It really depends on how good and how consistent that registrar and director of elections is and what powers they actually have. And in her case, she had all kinds of powers. She just refused to use them and misused and abused her office. So that's just an example. But on voter ID, what most people miss is that there's nothing wrong with having voter ID. What's wrong is when you say you can only have a few methods of voter ID. So if you say the only ID you could have is a passport or a driver's license or a gun license, if you only give people those three options and you don't allow people to use their utility bills, you don't allow them to use other forms of ID, then that's where it gets ugly, where you have whole states like Wisconsin, where I am right now, that has repeatedly tried to block student ID. When the requirements to enter into a university that is part of the state system is more strict than anything else, where they have denied employees of the government the ability to use their photo ID that is issued by the government. I mean, these are just ridiculous barriers. And so I'm not against ID. I am against the requirement that you can only have 3 forms. Most states have historically allowed you to have up to 26 different forms of voter ID. Now, he used another example. I went to vote recently for the primary in Maryland, and I had to walk up, and when I got there, they asked me my address, my social security number, by the way, and some other information that only I would have known. Most people don't know my social security number, I'm sorry, but they did not require that I pull out, a driver's license or anything else, but they did question it. So, I think that the problem is that people think too limited. When they hear voter ID, they think, oh, they're just against any form of voter ID. I'm not. I am against saying that people got to have a passport. Most people don't. I am against saying that people got to have a driver's license or another ID issued by the state government. When you only give people those limited options, you're knocking people out. Remember, thousands and thousands of people died during Hurricane Katrina because they didn't have a car. They didn't have a driver's license. They were car poor.
Yes, Reverend Jackson.
It's not just ideas of gerrymandering. Obviously, I has 470,000 Nigerian nation voted 70,000.
Oh, please.
And a black woman running for the Congress, Contessa Hathaway. These are split up in 3 different ways. Everybody can vote in the county should lose a seat because it's gerrymandering. Around the country, there's gerrymandering. The idea is an issue, but gerrymandering is a big issue.
Call us at 1-866-594-HOPE, 1-866-594-4673. Attorney Robert Patillo, everyone has got all of these elections that are coming up, and you've got 2 of the most pivotal elections in the country. Senator Raphael Warnock is facing off against Herschel Walker, and you've got gubernatorial candidate Stacey Kemp facing off once again against now Governor Stacey Abrams, facing off against Brian Kemp. What do you expect to see?
Well, this is again going to very much come down to turnout, and I'm putting the onus on the candidate to get out there, not wait until the final 30 days DOTV to tell people to vote for you, but get out here and start beating these bushes early. Get people registered, get people activated and motivated, not just the quote unquote super voters, but all the way up and down the line. And to the caller's point, the difference between the reason you have to show ID to get on the airplane, for example, versus voting is that the right to vote is a constitutional right. The right to get on the airplane is a privilege. There's a very big difference. Imagine you having to pull out an ID every time you want to use the First Amendment, every time you want to have free speech, or every time you want to have freedom of religion. You had to pull out an ID to show you were a citizen, to show you were supposed to have those rights. Imagine having to pull out an ID to publicly practice your religion or to petition the government. The barriers are being put in place for one very simple reason, because a state like Georgia is 35% African American, 20% Latino, 10% Asian, 52% women, one of the largest LGBTQ populations in the country, but they want to maintain Republican political power there, and the only way to do that is to suppress the vote. Otherwise, they would have been out of power for the last 20 years. If people do not understand that they're now transitioning to voter suppression 2.0, and more so than simply stopping people from being able to vote, now they've started attacking who counts the vote. So in Georgia now, we've seen the state legislature, with the majority Republican, decide that they can take power away from the Secretary of State and his ability to oversee elections. They can step into local boards of elections and overrule them and take over those elections. They can challenge voters and their registrations. We're now moving to a more sophisticated version of voter suppression as the demographics get more and more against them. And this is why it's more important than ever for someone like Raphael Warnock, who's currently up about 3 points on Herschel Walker, the alleged serial woman beater and mental health patient, to show you how tight the stakes are in this state and in this country. So it's crucial that we get every single person registered and motivated and educated, because otherwise we cannot simply have a government run by celebrities, where you have the Auburn football coach who's the senator from Alabama, the UVA running back who's the senator from Georgia, the TV talk show host who's the senator from Pennsylvania, the author of the Hillbilly Elegy being the senator from Ohio. That is how democracies fall, when you start putting silly people in place, and that is what they want by diluting and taking away the power to vote through voter suppression nationwide.
Well, what's going to happen? Yes.
I just wanted to add that, sadly, a couple of months ago, I actually left my ID at home, and I had to fly, and I could not go back home in time, and I was able to show my other ID and my frequent flyer number, fortunately, that I knew, to the airline, and I was able to fly. And I've had other people go through similar situations. So the airline example really doesn't work. People use it all the time, but it's just not true that you can fly without your actual driver's license, because I have done it. And I tell you one thing, I did call home and say, please, can somebody overnight it to me?
No, absolutely.
That
definitely flown without it. So that's just a wrong example. And many people do it all the time.
And they're always talking about this, but we've got your chair, the chair of your organization that you founded. Of course, she was the former executive. She's the former executive director of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, the nation's foremost voting rights lawyer and advocate. Attorney Darrell Jones, you're going to be in Senator Lena Taylor's district today. Hey, hey, hey! Roasting that pig, frying that fish and the chicken. What's going on with this fish fry? I've got 2 minutes.
Oh, well, Santita, let me tell you, we are kicking it high here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, over at McGovern Park, rec area number 4 from 1 to 5 today. We are going to be celebrating the vote. We're going to have a fish frying, pig picking, blues playing, good time. Get out the vote cookout. And let me tell you, you will not want to miss it. We're going to have book bags that will be given away to some of the kids. We're going to have free haircuts that are going to be given away to the people that need them, the students that are preparing to return to school. It's going to be a celebration like no other. And most importantly, Santita, it's free. This is a free event. People will have the opportunity to do a checkup on their voting registration status. Has their polling place changed? Are they registered to vote? But we don't stop there, Santita, because once you find out your status, we will give you a ride to the polls, because now is early voting time in Wisconsin. So today, it's all about the vote, it's all about the celebration, and it's all about the community. We're so excited. We just encourage everybody to come on down from 1 to 5 today over at McGovern Park Rec Area number 4 and participate.
And it's in Senator Lena Taylor's district. Senator Taylor, I've got about 30 seconds. You are welcoming everybody to this fish fry.
Well, everyone should be able to come out and enjoy this beautiful day in Milwaukee today. The weather is just right, not too cold, not too hot, like the porridge and 3 little bears. And you'll have some good food, some good eating that you can come out and do. You can get registered. You can even get sold to the polls. We'll take you to a polling location to execute your ballot today, if that's what you'd like to do. But we need you engaged, because we've got to make sure that we can close that 24,000 people gap that normally makes these statewide elections happen.
Amen. People, we got to get over before we go under. Come on, bring him up.
Till you get enough, yeah. Yeah, give yourself a chance to come through. Tell yourself I can do what you can do. Hey, listen to the man. Rap Godfather. Hey there. Cold. People. People. Hey, people. Don't you see what's going on? People. Got to get together.
Your opinion counts. 1-866-594-HOPE.
Whoa,
That's
yeah.
1-866-594-4673.
Reverend?
Yes.
Dad, do you want to say something now on Facebook Live, or do you want to say something as soon as we get back?
We'll see right now. I want all my friends to listen to this and watching around the country. Number 1, who registered to vote. You know, to high school, senior shit. On one hand, political, on the other. More than that, those who go to community colleges, they win the election. Community colleges will become free. The crisis in Kentucky right now is bridge collapse. The reason why Paul and McCollum can't show up to the scene it was to cut money off to build the bridges, to build infrastructure. That's why Booker is such a live alternative down in Kentucky. Some rural religious people not trying to use race-based as a substitute for a balanced meal. Please register and vote. Susan, you vote when you attend school. You're in Wisconsin, you're in Chicago, you vote when you attend school. We have an awesome power. We just use the great things happening. Thank you, Santita.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's your show. Okay, you want to say goodbye to everyone, Reverend?
Bye, y'all.
Oh, really?
There, I'll see you in Lena and Barbara.
That's right.
Can't wait. You'll be standing in line when y'all get there. Just be ready. He'll have his plan.
400 people that registered on these people are coming out today to celebrate the vote and get their vote on and just make sure that everybody in Milwaukee is aware that we got an August 9th primary. This is awesome. I'm just blown away by how the great response. And they can't wait to see you. They're so excited now that the word got out that you're coming. All of a sudden, the Eventbrite went insane when that word got out. So we're excited.
Okay. Reverend, are you leaving now, or are you going to stay for a couple more minutes? Reverend? Hello? Okay. Well, there we go.
Keep up, Bob.
I'm Fred from Los Angeles. If you all want to cut in.
All right, hold on first.
I guess he missed out.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Please stay in touch with Reverend Jackson at rainbowpush.org throughout the week. Rainbowpush.org, and join the organization. Please support us. We need your support. Transformative Justice Coalition needs your support. You know, Reverend Jackson has often said that you can't ride to freedom in Pharaoh's chariot. You've got to pay for it yourself. And we, our organizations, we are your advocates. We are your lobbyists, if you will. That's what we do. And we need your support in order to stay in order to stay in business. We have to pay for this ourselves, and that's fitting and just. No one freed us from slavery. We freed ourselves. If the truth be told, we're gonna have to start talking about that. All the things that Black people did to push abolition forward. And the struggle continues. Let's talk about voting rights today. Let's talk about automatic voter registration. This is something that Reverend Jackson is pushing now. He said, you know, you can be found for everything else. If you run a traffic light, you will get found and you will get a ticket. But when it comes to your vote, well, now there's always some kind of problem. We've got attorney Robert Patillo, WAOK today in Atlanta. Of course, you can hear his radio show all over the world from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time today. Attorney Darrell Jones and Attorney Barbara Arnwine on Tuesdays on WOL Radio, WOLDC Radio, the iconic radio station owned by the great Kathy Hughes. That's also our home station in Washington. And of course, they also stream on her website, Barbara Arnwine, ARNWINE.com, BarbaraArnwine.com. Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary, Esquire, Vice President of Rainbow Push, and the senior pastor of the iconic Douglas Memorial Community Church in Baltimore, Maryland. But it brings us to you, Wisconsin State Senator Lena Taylor. You've got a lot going on in Wisconsin. You've had your Wisconsin Elections Commission sending a mailer to eligible but unregistered voters. But then people like you who have been shut in, you know, when in our churches, we pray for the sick and shut in. You have been immobilized for the past couple of months, has it been? If you needed to vote in that time, what would you do?
I would have not been able to cast my vote. And so I hate that our residents have been put in this situation where they can have to personally take in the ballot. Everyone is not going to be able to do that. And so there has been some pushback from those with disabilities and disability agencies going to court to fight on their behalf, because the truth of the matter is every person can't get up and do that. And they should be able to exercise their constitutional rights. If they send their ballot by someone, that should be sufficient. We also, and I don't know if you've seen in the news, a young man who in the Racine area requested an absentee ballot of the mayor and of the state rep in the area, who is also the speaker in the assembly. And then he told them that he contacted law enforcement to say that he was showing that there was a problem in our system to be able to access someone's absentee ballot. So our Wisconsin Election Commission did an emergency meeting, and I don't know that they've made a decision on how they wanted to proceed and whether this person, you know, should ultimately be prosecuted or not for showing this problem in our system. Is what he says he was attempting to do, not actually commit the fraud. So there are so many things going on to try to change people's access to the ballot. We need people to have access. And if you can have to register so that they can put you in the service. I don't understand why when you turn 18, you can't be automatically, put in a position to be able to be registered to vote. We've tried that legislation. We can't get a hearing, okay? So we're just not there with this particular legislature that we have. And I'll end with the Reverend made a point that, we didn't dive into, but he said gerrymandering. He's talking about redistricting, everybody. When redistricting happens every 10 years and those maps are done in such a way that they're biased to what the majority of the people in a state might say, when those maps are made in a way so that one party benefits more than another party, that's the gerrymandering that he speaks about. And that's not only happened in other states, it's happened in Wisconsin. As a matter of fact, in my district was the most gerrymandered by both parties, to be very honest with you. And right now, the Republican maps that are in place have a district that was held by one of Reverend's very good friends, Annette Polly Williams. She was a state representative, and she held that seat for more than 30 years as an African-American woman. And when we lost that seat to a white woman, it was horrible. But then we gained the seat back, and now that seat has been reduced to a 47 Black district by the Republican maps, which means that the suburban areas will be able to decide what happens in this district more than what the Voter Rights Act says, which is Black people should be able to pick a candidate of their choice regardless of a white voting bloc. And from redistricting, gerrymandering.
What is the remedy to that, Senator Taylor?
Well, in this particular situation, getting people out to vote is important, and afterwards we will more than likely have to sue all the way to the Supreme Court, but that's in question because now they're suggesting that the legislature should be able to be the sole decider of what happens in redistricting, and that's a problem because 60% of state legislatures are controlled by Republicans from gerrymandering maps. So it will give them a lock-in. So what matters most? Your ability to vote, people. Using that ability to vote. And it's not enough. We need you to hold them, those electors that you vote for, accountable when they get in these spaces. That's why we need the Voter Rights Act to be fixed at the federal level. That's why we need the president to do something now to be able to address the voters' rights and redistricting in a way that can help us across the nation. So there are things that can be done, but it will require those that are in authority and in power at the federal level to do legislation. It's going to require the people to go out and vote and be engaged, because we've got to have people in the state legislature and in the gubernatorial seat and in these U.S. Senate seats that will be able to make the difference. And the gap is getting closed so much that if we don't act now, we may miss the opportunity to be able to fix these things. We've got to do it now, not later.
Fred from LA. Fred, what's on your mind today?
And to your panel. Okay, we're talking about people who can't vote. Now, Barbara said 26 types of ID, and then she said utility bills. Well, quite often people get utility bills in other people's names or things like that. But anyway, you got a U.S. passport, a driver's license, in my case, California, and California ID. Those three IDs, you have to have a birth certificate. The easiest one, obviously, to get is a California ID. You have to have a certified birth certificate. Everybody's got one of those, and if it's like that in all the states, then what is the problem? You guys want to respond?
Okay, Reverend Dr. Yuri.
Things that happen at home that are not certified. Sometimes it is a household record that many of our folks have had to use to be able to establish birth. And so you cannot use that. The other part is birth certificates are not free. So to get a certified birth certificate from your local government, very often it imposes a cost burden on extremely poor people to be able to get a certified copy of the birth certificate to turn around and send to the state to be able to get an ID. So this notion that somehow or other just merely asking for an ID, but putting the response, you mentioned a passport. There is no cost burden sharing of the government to be able to get a passport. Passport is cost prohibitive for most people to be able to get one, much less be able to get to a post office or a passport service center to be able to turn it in. At some point, I appreciate my brother because he makes sure that we stay sharp on our argument. But at the end of the day, we got to be grounded in what the reality is. And real quick, Santita, I got to go back to Keith's point about predominantly Black cities with Black leadership as a sign of progress, because this often comes up about Baltimore. Baltimore is 60+% Black. But remember, city governments are not sovereign entities. They are municipal corporations. The sovereign is the state. And what we see very often in these Black-led cities is that when there is tension with the state government after, as Senator Taylor has pointed out, the gerrymandering has gone in, the state imposes certain oversight burdens that encumber the ability of Black leaders in majority Black cities to be able to actually impose and implement the policies that would indicate that there's progress. So we got to make sure that we understand that when we're playing the game of Monopoly, we can't just say because everybody gets to pass go and get $200 that there's equity on the board. That's not the case. And so whether it's voter ID or having to get a passport, it costs $100+ to get a U.S. passport. Now, to Barbara's point, if a voter ID is required and the state is going to incur the cost and remove the burden for what kind of documentation would be necessary to be able to secure that ID, and to make sure that rather than having the individual who's often transportation challenged to have to get to a single site to be able to get the ID, if you have mobile access to go to the neighborhoods that are often isolated, then yeah, maybe we can have a substantive conversation. But to call in and say that everybody's got a birth certificate, first of all, that ain't grounded in fact, much less family history. I don't know anybody. If I go back to my grandmama's day, the way we found out what the birthdays were is we looked in the family Bible, not in the public record. So we've got to make sure that we stay accurate on what the real deal is so that we can address the situation on the ground as it really is and not as we want to pretend it is.
Santita, I gotta get in on this one because I'm a native Californian and was born, raised, and graduated college out of California. And I just think that people need to know my mom had 12 children. And every once in a while, she would get a little tired of the tears because my sister at 60 years old, at 50 years old, discovered that her birth certificate, her name on her birth certificate was Jane Doe Girl. And when she finally got it because she needed it for some purpose, and her birth certificate was Jane Doe Girl. She had to get that done. I had another brother who was Joe Doe Boy. That happens. I'm sorry, people. The reality is that you can't say that there's a solid rule that birth certificates are perfect. They're not, even where people have them. And remember, one of the biggest fights going on right now in states is people who are transgender, who have changed their sexual identification, and their birth certificates don't reflect it. And they're having trouble trying to vote because they can't get a voter ID with their correct gender. So there's all kinds of issues, folks. Let me tell you this. Daryl Jones and I were in Europe just a month ago, and they have 98% voter turnout, but every single darn Western democracy in Europe has automatic voter identification, automatic voter registration, automatic, because they know who their citizens are. They automatically register them. And one thing we know, even in the United States, is where you have automatic voter registration, you have the highest turnout, because people will vote if they think their government wants them to vote. And that's why they have it. So look at Oregon. Look at all these states that have AVR, the 15 states that do. And you will see that they have highest voter turnout.
Absolutely. And it can happen, everybody. We're but a thought away from making this work. But you have to decide that you want to be citizens in a republic, not subjects in a monarchy. That's your decision. It choose or lose. Very quickly, Senator Lena Taylor, Wisconsin State Senator Lena Taylor, you're having a big event, a fish fry from 1 to 5 today in Milwaukee, in the heart of your district. What's going on, Senator Taylor? Oh, is Senator Taylor still there? Well, you know what? Attorney Darrell Jones, Attorney Barbara Arnwine, I got 1 minute for you. This fish fry from 1 to 5 today?
Absolutely, Cynthia. Over at McGovern Park here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in rec area number 4 from 1 to 5, we will be having a huge fish fry, pig kicking, blues playing, good time voter cookout. It's a celebration of the right to vote. The folks will be able to get book bags for their children, as well as free haircuts for the kids that will be attending. It's a completely free event. We're celebrating that right to vote, and they'll be able to check on their voter status or do a voter checkup to be certain that they're registered, be certain that their polling place hasn't changed. And if they haven't voted and they want to vote, they'll even have a ride to the poll to be able to vote today, to get their vote on, get your praise on. We'll have it all going on right there in McGovern Park from 1 to 5 today.
We cannot wait. We're going to speak. We pitch it to Senator Taylor on the other side of the break. You're going to invite everybody to come out to your district to McGovern Park from 1 to 5 today for this fish fry. Celebrating the vote, everybody. You'll find out so much about that. You'll even be able to vote today. They have transportation, souls to the polls, but they have a fish fry, chicken fry. Oh, my God.
Pig.
A big pig. Oh, it's going to be so wonderful out there. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. In McGovern Park in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, everybody. That was Jeremy. Are you going to drive up there after you do your teaching
Yes,
class?
now.
Well, let's go. All right. Back with some closing thoughts on Keep Hope Alive. I hope that you'll join me on my show Monday through Friday on the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, WCPT, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. And please, Push needs your support. Go to rainbowpush.org, rainbowpush.org. Give us your support. 930 50th Street. We need the volunteers. It's a volunteer-driven organization. The Transformative Justice Coalition. Please give them your support. Help them as they help you. Robert Patillo will be on WAOK this afternoon from 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You don't want to miss that. Attorney Darrell Jones, Attorney Barbara Arnwine, every Tuesday at 12 noon on WOL and barbaraarnwine.com. Closing thoughts on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson in just a few minutes. I love that black soprano wobble. I love it. It's just as wrong, but it is thrilling. Oh, it is. It'll ruin the voice.
Now, Santina.
Yes.
You know half the stuff that goes on in church is probably not proper.
And you know what? And let me tell you what I was told when I first sang for Reverend Evans on his album. A friend of mine and Reverend Evans was very deliberate in pairing me with Pierre Walker, who was conservatory trained, and his father, Reverend Charles Walker, who you knew out of Philadelphia. He was also a European classically trained singer and pianist. He was top notch, conservatory. Pierre looked at me and he said, Santita, you sing 7 days a week. They do this once a week. He said, you know this will ruin your voice. You did this twice a week. That was the only thing, because when I started to sing with Roberta Flack, I'm so grateful for having had the experience, because she is a teacher by training. You know, she is literally a dissertation away from her PhD. And she was working on that when she signed to Atlantic. And she got a full scholarship to Howard at 13. Brilliant, brilliant woman. But I learned about the value of a music education and of training so that you can sing forever. I mean, there's a reason that some people can sing a long time. And the best people I found when I started singing professionally, they have teachers. Seth. Seth. I think it's Seth Griggs. Big vocal teacher out of Los Angeles. When Michael Jackson was on tour, he would have his first session for an hour in the morning, then in the afternoon for 30 minutes, and then 15 minutes just before he went on stage. So and that's not him rehearsing his music. That's just keeping the instrument in order. And so, people think you just roll out of bed and do things. That is not how anything happens. You know that, Attorney Barbara Arnwine and Senator Taylor, because you know how hard you have to work to stay chewed up on your information.
All right now.
It's just real. And so trying to pull some of these, I was at something and this young woman walked up to me and we had sung in the same church program. And she said, "Oh, I'd love to talk with you." And blah, blah, blah. I said, "Baby." And she was great, but she was young. And I said, first thing you've got to do, and I'm still in touch with her. I said, you've got to get a voice teacher, not a coach, a teacher. You have to learn how to use your instrument. She said, "That's what I hear with you." I said, "Yeah." I said, "You need to do that." I said, because on the day that the voice is really not there or in top-notch shape, I said, if someone flies you out of town to sing, they don't want to hear that you can't sing. They're not going to play that. You better figure out something. I got to Italy one time and my voice completely left me. I had a horrible virus and they gave me a shot. I had my voice back in 8 hours, but I couldn't speak for a week.
Right.
Because the steroid is a lie. It gives you your voice back, but that's why Miles Davis spoke in that crazy raspy whisper, because he had surgery. They told him he needed to be on vocal rest. He couldn't speak for like a couple of months. Somebody made him angry and he screamed and it ruined his voice. Things happen like that all the time.
Whitney Houston.
Oh, yeah. A lot of things happen with her too. But Julie Andrews, she can't sing now because she had vocal surgery, which is something you never want to do. And they nicked her vocal fold, which holds the vocal cords. They nicked it and it destroyed her voice.
30 seconds.
Oh my Lord.
Of Julie Andrews of all people. So these, it's all these things. And every time I've gone to a vocal teacher, guess what? They have held up Reverend Jesse Jackson as an example of how you use the voice. They say he stays in his mask and he never loses his voice. He's only lost it once in public life, after the 88 campaign. It's amazing. But something to be said for that. Hold on. I'm coming to you, Senator Taylor.
3, 2, 1, you're live.
Hey, everybody, rainbowpush.org. Please give us your support. This is Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. But today we've got a big event, the Transformative Justice Coalition, Black Voters Matter, and Reverend Jackson's going to be there too. Attorney Barbara Arnwine's dragging him up there, but that's all right. He wants to go, and they're going to have a good time with Attorney Darrell Jones in Senator Lena Taylor's district in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. What's happening with this fish fry? Attorney Lena Taylor, State Senator Lena Taylor.
So McGovern Park, in the heart of the 4th Senate District, will have an event that Wisconsin Voice, Consult to the Polls, and other entities, I think the Urban League and others are working with Transformative Justice to be able to inform people about multiple resources, including resources around voting. How do you know if you're registered? How do you get registered? How do you vote? How do you cast a ballot? Where do you go to do that? Can you get help to go and do that? All of those things are going to be addressed today. And while you're doing it, you can grab some fish. You can hot fish, been fried up for you. You can grab some chicken. You can grab some pork. I think they even got some corn and some other stuff for you. But the part is you're going to be able to do it after you go out and go to church today. It's going to be one of the only Sundays that left, one more, before the election. And the last one will be August 6th before the election, but you'll be able to go and vote and cast your ballot today, even if you are not registered. And so we know that there are hundreds of thousands of people who have not been registered, and we know that there are several individuals that did not cast their ballot in the last elections, and we know we didn't have this opportunity to vote on the Sundays in the last election cycle. So luckily, they got it right this time, and so you can vote on a Sunday.
Well, amen to that. Attorney Barbara Arnwine, I've got 30 seconds. Of course, everyone can be with you and Attorney Darrell Jones at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday on the Great WOL station and on your website. What do you want us to know in 30 seconds?
If you're formerly incarcerated and you're confused about your right to vote in the state of Wisconsin, you absolutely want to come out to McGovern Park, because one of our big programs that we're doing in Wisconsin as the Transformative Justice Coalition with our wonderful, amazing partner voting rights groups here in Wisconsin is to make sure that those who need their rights restored to vote can do so and get the help, the advice, the assistance that they need, so that those thousands and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people who should be voting, but they haven't gotten help, can get that help today.
So if you have any question about your voting status, please go to McGovern Park from 1 to 5 Central Standard Time today. They're even going to be have a pig on the spit. It's going to be fabulous, everybody. You don't want to miss it. And of course, it's in the heart of Senator Taylor's district. Very quickly, 30 seconds for you, Attorney Robert Patillo. You're on WAOK today from 1 to 4. What will you be talking about?
We're going to be talking about the monkeypox outbreak, and people need to know. With your friend, Dr. Deborah Holden, who's going to be giving us a community update on what people need to be looking out for. People can tune in 1 to 4, News Until 1380 WAOK, or on the Odyssey app. Just go to www.waok.com. You can listen anywhere in the world online.
Amen to that. And please, whatever you do, give Rainbow Push your support, rainbowpush.org. And all throughout the week, remember to keep hope alive. God bless you. Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
To Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. For more information on upcoming shows and guests, please visit our website at www.keephopealiveradio.com.
My beautiful people, thank you so much for being with us today. Woo! Okay.
Well, we're looking forward to that.
I wish I could be there with you up in Milwaukee, but
Well, Santina, I got to say this before I go.
Oh my!
I must raise my protest. I was in Memphis on Wednesday. I got there. I saw Daryl. I saw Barbara. We laughed. We smiled. We joked. Neither one of them colored people said anything to me about pride.